Alright, on today's video, we are reacting to the fairy of clash between Pierre, Mark Carney and Jagmeet Singh. This 2025 Canada leadership debate has in Montreal and conducted in French. This debate set the turn-off for the entire election race. Carney tried to position himself as the stable leader, but Pierre wasn't having it. From economy issues to foreign policy, things got heated. Jagmeet Singh and Blanchett also joined the stage, but the spotlight was clearly on the Pierre and Mark Carney. Let's dive and see what's happening here.
Begin now for about 15 minutes. Mr. Poilievre, you have called Carney a political grifter, a globalist banker who's disconnected from reality. And Mr. Carney, you said Pierre Poilievre is a career politician who knows nothing about how the real world works. So I ask you the question, which of you first is capable of standing up to Donald Trump? Mr. Poilievre.
I am. Because I'm going to put Canada first. I will never compromise Canada's interests. And I will control what we can control here. Obviously, no one will be able to control the decisions of Donald Trump, but we can control our economy, our domestic economy, by overturning liberal economic policies that have weakened our country and made us more dependent on the Americans.
The issue is, Mr. Poilievre,
well,
you would make Canada more like the United States. You would Americanize our healthcare system, privatize it.
Hated things, guys. Hated things here.
Who's going to believe a word this guy says?
You said that you're better?
all right. First of all, I know how to negotiate. And I agree with Mr. Singh. We need to start by saying what's never going to be on the table. The French language, Quebec's culture, and supply management will never be on the table. Our resources, that's the first thing. Second, in terms of Mr. Blanchett's point, the opportunities that we have with the European Union are there, and I've already started building new relationships with the European Union. As Prime Minister, I met with the President of France and with the President of the European Commission.
There's a lot to unpack in there, let's be honest. And perhaps it's right. You say that you're an expert in managing a crisis, but you say you're a negotiator. But, well, perhaps negotiating with tax havens. But when it comes to trade agreements, I haven't seen the proof. We have never spoken to me before this evening. You're not trying to figure out how to collaborate between equals, Quebec, Canada, Mexico, European partners. You're trying to score divisive...
Started as Prime Minister. I've been Prime Minister for a month. In the first week, I signed an agreement with the premiers of all the provinces, the Premier of Quebec and the premiers of all the provinces and territories concerning free trade within Canada. It's also an agreement that deals with trade corridors. That's an example. That's an example.
You haven't sat with any premiers. You've sat with MPs that will be elected at the same level as you if you're elected.
The problem, Mr. Carney, is that your party has been in power for 10 years. And in that time, it's not meetings that are going to change things. It's your policies that have blocked resources. C-69, which blocks not just pipelines, but also dams, mines, and liquid natural gas exploration. We have a deal with Europe, a trade deal. The Conservatives negotiated it, but liberal legislation has prevented development, and you continue to support those laws. Those laws need to be repealed and replaced with laws that will unleash our resources and allow us to export abroad and allow us to become truly economically...
Lose their jobs due to the trade war. These days, people receiving EI get maybe half of their salary. For people who have already lost their jobs, that is not enough. It won't cover the bills. It won't cover their rent costs. That shows your priorities. For me, workers are number one. We need a system to support.
Workers are number one for this guy?
counter tariffs. And all the money collected from our counter tariffs will go directly to workers and the businesses that are the most affected by this trade war. Tax cuts the way that Mr. Poilievre is going to do.
You always want to increase them. You're a liberal. We want to cut taxes.
Started as Prime Minister
For a fourth liberal term.
I've just started.
You were Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. Have you forgotten that?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Them would cut taxes for billionaires and millionaires. They have already done it in the past. Your first step was to reduce taxes for the millionaires. Pierre Poilievre would do the same thing.
That's not
You're
true.
not thinking of regular people.
We've cut the consumer carbon
Great.
tax. That's
Mr.
what we
Singh,
did.
Mr. Blanchet, we've been telling Canadians for several days that it would be better to have a minority government. You said it clearly.
Les Canadiens ne peuvent pas se poser la question est-ce qu'on ne devrait pas avoir.
With Trump, can Canadians not want a majority government that's stronger?
I don't know where that reasoning comes. The minority government would be weaker than a majority government. Go tell that to the Germans, who have only governed through coalitions recently. Many countries have coalitions, and if that is the population of the people, then great. At this point, it's possible that Canadians and Quebecers, perhaps, choose to trust in someone who has the least experience in politics. Quebec has a different economy, different interests, different element where our economic difference is taken into account.
Let's talk a little bit about
Mr. Singh,
minority
in terms of the minority
governments.
government,
The whole point of a minority government is to help people, to make a difference in people's lives. But honestly, Mr. Blanchet,
As we move forward, I'd like to ask you a quick favor to subscribe and like this video. It helps me so much and costs you nothing.
unfortunately, in the last minority government, you showed that you were as useless as the monarchy is. You did nothing for people. Hundreds of thousands of Quebecers.
Quebec jurisdiction, dental
Exactly.
care, health care,
People in Quebec,
pharmacare,
People
the money
in
that we
Quebec-
send to Ottawa. Ottawa does not have the expertise or the jurisdiction.
we are
Quebec
paying their
does.
bills.
Mr. Roy,
Please let me finish one sentence.
please wrap it up.
When we want to be effective,
Both.
the NDP gave $2 billion to a
We are-
insurance company.
Giving
Everything was
money to our
going
Quebec seniors.
fine until now, but Mr. Carney, in terms of the minority government,
Mr. Roy, we are in a crisis, the most serious crisis of our lives. We need to react with resounding, overwhelming strength. Yes, we need to cut a few taxes. Yes, we need to cut bureaucracy. But we need to have a government ready to act.
But when you were Justin Trudeau's economic advisor, you weakened our economy. We need economic sovereignty, and that means bringing back production to Canada. And I would reverse liberal policies around development. I would expedite construction permits. We would have pre-approved permits. And that would, and I would also make sure that we could send our energy to Europe to break Europeans' dependence on Putin, and to break our dependence on the
The
U.S.
Conservatives and the Liberals both prioritize the ultra-rich, not you, not
Great, we
regular
do have a
Canadians.
segment on that.
That's the difference.
we have a segment on energy and pipelines, so we'll come back to that later. There are people who are watching us who are concerned. We're talking about more than $450 million a year in losses for Canadian farmers. So what is something you wouldn't concede in a
I will
negotiation?
defend supply management. I will defend the French language. I will defend our healthcare system. I will defend our decisions and our laws. We will always be sovereign. And the way we're going to restore that sovereignty, Canadian sovereignty, is by making our economy stronger. We need to cut red tape by 25% for businesses. We need to reduce development charges, taxes on housing. We need to support labor and energy
Great.
and domestic
management.
production. That's how we can be more sovereign.
Management. Well, I'll go around the table, Mr. Carney.
In the face of the U.S.
It's nice to say supply management, but we've said it 3 times and it hasn't been done. So
Well, this is the first time that I will be at the table if I am elected as Prime Minister. I've said a number of times, never touch supply management. We won't put Quebec culture or the French language on the table. And I think we all agree on that point. And that's important. We have to...
area that we don't agree on is that
Pierre Poilievre, c'est de couper en santé. Et la
$1 billion
we'll talk about
worth
that in
of
the next
cuts.
segment.
coût de la vie, puis on parlera
Cost of living. We'll talk about tax cuts later and choices. And we will underscore that none of you has tabled a costed plan.
Talk about this. No one will be able to stop him from at least talking about it. We've never sacrificed the principle of supply management. So it's empty words. Little bits have been sacrificed every single time at a cost of hundreds of millions of dollars every single time. All Mr. Trump wants is a wave of Wisconsin milk with hormones, with no protection against
So
antibiotics.
what would you do concretely?
We will bring back an act that everyone approved. The Liberals before Carney approved it. Everyone had approved it, but then there were certain intrigues with unelected senators. There's a number of unelected
And,
members of
the
Parliament
law
that
with-
seem to be making decisions.
What would protect better?
Well, maybe I agree with that law, but my point is that we need to invest in Canada. Our plan, which will be unveiled this weekend, will catalyze $500 billion of investment in Canada over the next 5 years. And that will be important in our negotiations with Mr. Trump.
I'd like to
And that's my take on 2025 leaders debate. Carney and Poilievre stole the show tonight. Whether you are Team Carney or Team Poilievre or just here to choose, one thing is clear: this election is heating up fast. Let me know what you think about this. Don't forget to like this video, and we will meet you on the next video.